When we talk about HS2, as you know, the Chamber are big supporters of the project and have been since its inception. And I personally feel that its importance will become even more magnified as we emerge from this crisis, particularly given the fact that the project is expected to generate over 100,000 jobs and 2,000 apprenticeships in the region itself. But when it comes to apprenticeship opportunities and when it comes to supply chain opportunities, how can local firms get involved? Well, here with me to discuss this important topic, I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Thurston, CEO of HS2 Limited, Michael Dyke, MD of Balfour Beatty Vinci, Sarah Jennings, Procurement and Supply Chain Director at Balfour Beatty Vinci, and Matt Hadlington, Senior Business Engagement Manager at HS2 Limited. So what we'll quickly do today, I'll just quickly run through some information on our Keep Business Moving campaign. I'll then hand over to the presenters who will go through a series of slides. After the presentations, we'll then have time for a Q&A session. And we'll aim to close around about 2:15, but if we go slightly over, that's not a problem, given we started a bit later. If you'd like to ask a question at any point, please do write it in the chat box, and I will ask it on your behalf during the Q&A. And again, if you encounter any technical difficulties, please do consult the Click Meeting troubleshooting guide in the first instance, which you can see the link at the bottom of your screen. Now, many of you will be familiar with our Keep Business Moving campaign, but for those of you not, just a quick reminder, essentially what we're trying to do right now is help businesses connect, support, and grow in this very difficult time period. So when it comes to the connect element, we've been running our hashtag GB Chamber chat every weekday between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. on Twitter. We're still running our member-to-member offers as well. So again, please do check out our website for more details. In terms of support, we have our COVID-19 hub, which contains a raft of information on the various support measures out there to help businesses get through this difficult time period. We're running a number of webinars centering on topics such as furloughing your staff, but also improving cash flow. We still have our free legal and HR helpline open to members, but the bulk of our work has been very much around lobbying and campaigning. So again, if there's key stakeholders you want us to speak to, both national and local, do let us know. Please do keep on providing those case studies. And we've been supporting government appeals for sourcing ventilators, hand sanitizer, and protective clothing. And of course, in terms of the growth element, we're still keen to hear about thought leadership content. So there's blog posts or videos on tips on how to respond to coronavirus or working digitally. Do let us know. And of course, we still have our Chamberlink daily articles as well. So just in terms of upcoming webinars, we do, as you can see, have a number of them coming up in the next couple of days and next week, covering topics such as employment and commercial law advice, thinking about digital marketing, but also an update on procurement related to the Commonwealth Games. So if you do visit our website and click on the events section, you'll find out more details. Right, without any further delay, I will now hand over to Mark. Mark, over to you. Right, okay, it seems as though Mark has gone. So what I'll need to do is hand over to Michael. So if you can bring in Michael Grace. Michael, can you hear me?
Can, Raj, can you hear me?
Yes, I can very clearly. I believe that Mark's unfortunately had to drop out, so I believe we're going straight to yourself now.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for making the time to be available today. It's a pleasure to be with you and to share a little bit more about BBV in terms of who we are and what we hope to achieve whilst working with you and in your community. I think the first thing to say is that when we think about Balfour Beatty Vinci, we are a 50-50 joint venture, and we were formed back in 2011, and we've worked across a number of projects of critical national importance throughout the UK, including more recently Crossrail and the Smart Motorways programme. For those that may not know so much about Vinci, I think what's really important to say is they have a wealth of high-speed experience, and I'm delighted with the fact that within our team we've been blessed with having some of those key people who have most recently completed a very significant scheme called the Tour Bordeaux, which is nearly 300 kilometres of high-speed line in France. And in addition to that, we're also supported by Mott MacDonald and Assistra, who are a 50-50 design joint venture, which helps us to ensure that we can actually provide the very best service and activity for HS2. I think in terms of the actual route itself, for the avoidance of doubt, we pick up the works, our section just inside South Warwickshire. We start at Southam, we then skirt the villages of South Warwickshire into Kenilworth, and then into Solihull, firstly into Berkswell, Balsall Common, Hampton and Arden, Stonebridge, then up towards Chelmsley Wood. There will be a station situated on the outskirts of Solihull called Birmingham Interchange. In addition, I should emphasise that we will be building the Birmingham Spur, which will be the section of railways through the centre of Birmingham, which links up the new Curzon Street station with the rest of the track. And we will then make our way through North Warwickshire, skirting Coleshill, and then on to into North Warwickshire villages, including Bodymore Heath, Water Orton, Middleton, and Kingsbury. So, as you imagine, a significant level of activity. And for me, what's really important as leader of this business is that we make ourselves available and visible to you from the very outset. And I think it's important that we start as we mean to go on. So today I'm delighted to be followed by Sarah Jennings, who in particular is leading the effort with our supply chain, which I know is of great interest to many of you. But as I say, starting as we mean to go on means putting our names out there, putting faces to names, and making our contact details available. And I say with a wry smile that I hope that that's taken in the right way, and that that doesn't become an issue which is otherwise abused. But please note the fact that we want to be present, we want to be visible, and we want you to know who we are. So what I've shared with you in the circle there is effectively myself with Sarah, but in addition to that is the remainder of the senior leadership team that will be responsible for delivering this wonderful challenge into your neighbourhood. I would deliberately point out to the top left-hand side, Gilles and Jean-Philippe. Gilles was actually the leader of Tour Bordeaux, which I think is very important because he has very current, recent high-speed rail experience, and Jean-Philippe supporting that. And also off to the 9 o'clock position, Sam Morris and Shilpi, who again, I think Shilpi in particular is known to a number of you, and will play a prominent part in terms of engagement with yourselves, along with myself and the team. Now, when we think about the project in numbers, I've described the route, and as you might imagine, that therefore involves an awful lot of assets, just over 300 assets, spread into a number of categories, over 4 kilometres of tunnels, 40 kilometres of embankments, 10 kilometres of retaining walls, viaducts in the form of 13 clicks, 35 kilometres of cuttings, and 132 overbridges and underbridges. So inevitably, we want to be noted by our presence, welcomed by our presence, not noted by our absence, and hence the reason for this visibility with you today. We click to the next slide. From a time now perspective, we're sort of approaching the midpoint in 2020, and you can see to the left, ecology and archaeology mitigation works and early enabling works have already commenced in the top left. As we now move through to where we are, the big push over the next 2 to 3 years, particularly commencing in early 21, will be the surface route earthworks, and then the formation of the viaducts and the bridges, which will take us through well into 2023. And if you look to the bottom of the slide, you'll then see the rail infrastructure installation and testing starting to appear. So there'll be a period of significant overlap and concurrency as we complete our assets from a civils perspective, and those assets get taken into service from a testing and commissioning perspective in terms of forming a live railway. As we move forward and we think about what's important to us, I think the first and most important message to say is that Balfour Beatty Vinci does not have any special values or anything different to High Speed 2. So quite simply, we have 4 words: integrity, leadership, respect, and safe. And it's really important that we're fully aligned with our customer in the form of HS2. And I sincerely hope that you will take heart in that, and also you will see those behaviours and those values play out each and every day as we exist in your neighbourhood. And above and beyond that, it's also imperative that those values are also passed directly through to our supply chain to ensure that they too live the same values without any contradiction whatsoever. So please take comfort in the fact as to how we would like to operate. And then when I think about our legacy and our contribution as we move through our activities, in particular skills, employment and education is going to be at the heart of what we do. Raj mentioned in the introduction along the lines of the significant number of jobs that we will create as we move through your patch. Clearly for us, there are three primary objectives which align very much with HS2 and also the government skills agenda. One is to create sustainable job opportunities for young people, local people and diverse groups. Two is to foster and develop talent and to create an engaged and highly skilled workforce for the delivery of High Speed 2. And three is to be an exemplar of equality, diversity and inclusion in practice. And when we actually start to think about that in real terms, Sarah will come into some of the numbers and some of the information that unpacks that further. But I think from my perspective, I wanted to simply emphasize to you today that our strategic goals are directly linked to the requirements of the programme. And they do include creating job and apprenticeship opportunities, upskilling existing workers, creating a pipeline of talent. And that pipeline needs to go from effectively school right the way through to support for the National College for High Speed Rail. And finally, and very importantly, encouraging a more diverse workforce to better represent and to serve our customers. So I hope that gives you a flavour as to the role that BBV will play in your area. I'd now like to pass to Sarah, who will take us through the next level of detail in terms of supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thank you for inviting BBV to take part in the webinar today. And as you've already heard, we've got an amazing, exciting opportunity ahead of us. And really, my job as part of BBV and as part of this programme is to start building a supply chain that's capable of delivering the challenges that are ahead of us, not only now, but also in terms of follow-on work within the West Midlands, and then further on the HS2 programme as it proceeds through the next stages. And for me, in terms of my role and what I do within BBV, I'm very passionate about focus on how we engage with people and how we bring people into the BBV team and the HS2 programme. And for me, how we engage with our partners really does set the tone in terms of the relationships we have working together and moving forward. And I don't underestimate the size and scale of that challenge here. And I'm hoping that over the next few slides I can share with you our vision and really provide you with the start of that visibility around the opportunities that we have of working together. Our vision, I'm hoping this works when I press it on. Grace, could you move on for me? It's not... Thank you. Our vision, quite simply, is to deliver the right outcomes through our supply chain partnerships, which means ensuring that we work with the right suppliers who have the right behaviours and that we adopt the right engagement and management strategies which will deliver value. And our vision really is built around 4 key pillars, and these pillars relate directly to the visions and goals and strategic objectives of the whole programme. Those 4 pillars, I mean, all of them are strategically important in terms of how we move forward. But for me, I think if we can start with that, developing the right relationships and establishing the best team, and we can move forward in terms of building capability, working with key partners to develop new, diverse SME and local businesses to work with us, and also recognising the need that investment to develop a supply chain that's fit for the future. We can then together start performing and delivering continuous improvement and really starting to focus on the value that we can deliver through this programme. Ultimately, there needs to be a recognition that we need to work together to deliver the project to cost and time, but we also need to be setting ourselves up now to be able to deliver that sustainable value for the future and to leave a legacy in terms of the communities that we're working in. If you could move on for me, Grace, please. So in terms of our processes and how we work, and this is really just the introduction really for starting to move the debate on. There's a number of routes that you can get in touch with us. Obviously, Michael has given you access to our emails and phone numbers, and by all means, if there's a question or you feel you need to get involved in touch, then please use those routes. There are other routes that you can go through to understand what we're doing and what opportunities are available. We utilise Compete For to tender all of our opportunities, and we also promote and encourage that throughout the whole of the supply chain. This provides a wider base in terms of supply chain being able to access us, and it also means we have access to a greater pool and a larger supplier base. Moving through to pre-qualification and starting to work with us in real time. Balfour Beatty Vinci work with Construction Line, who we're members with to accredit our supply chain that work with us. The interesting thing that has happened recently is that Construction Line, Achilles and Chas has now formed the Common Assessment Standard, and myself and the other 3 main work civils contractors that are working as part of phase 1 are all signed up to the Common Assessment Standard. So whether you're a member of Construction Line, Achilles or Chas, you can access opportunities across the whole of the HS2 route, which again is really just opening up that range of opportunities for everybody involved. And then we also promote and encourage every business that we work with to be an active part of the supply chain score. There's an immense array of access to free resources and support that will help develop and upskill us all as we move forward through the programme. Finally, unfortunately, I didn't put it on the slide, but hopefully you can remember this. You can log on to our website as well at balfourbeattyvinci.com, and you can register your interest to work with us there as well. If you could move on for me, please, Grace. So a little bit now around the opportunities that we have. As I'm sure you're aware that 2020 is a huge year for the project, and within BBV we're right at the start of that intense mobilisation period, which will set us up for success as we move forward. Key to this success, as Michael outlined earlier, is our ability to attract, develop and then retain a critical workforce. And there's some of the more critical construction trades listed here on this slide, but there's also a lot of opportunity for non-construction related roles. If you could move on, please, Grace. And some of those are listed here. We have a fantastic opportunity to tap into local talent, and for me, probably one of the most exciting aspects of this job is being able to support somebody in the early parts of their career to be able to develop and grow within this industry. You can probably tell I'm a local, so I'm passionate about being able to actually leave that legacy in terms of the next range of people that are running the likes of Balfour Beatty and Vinci in the future and working on projects such as HS2 within our industry. The next slide lists some of the key opportunities for businesses working with us over the next 12 months. And this is a fraction of the packages. There'll be lots of packages within packages. So some of these are likely to be delivered through frameworks that we deliver geographically, which will mean that we're working with more than one contractor within each of these areas. And some of these works will be let directly to a first tier subcontractor, who then will open up further opportunities beyond that. And using Compete For obviously is a key area for us to be able to share all of this information and to give you access to those opportunities both with us and our first tier suppliers. And just final slide, please, Grace. So just to kind of summarise the next steps, there's some access there to the routes that I've talked about, and I hope you found some of this information useful. I hope that you get in touch. I hope that you get involved. There's a lot more going on, as Raj indicated, to start off with the chamber, but also with focused growth hubs throughout the region. Our next more targeted session is with the Warwickshire and Coventry growth hub later on this month. So I hope that you'll start getting involved, get in touch, Let me know how you're getting on, what you're thinking, if you need any support, and thank you for your time today.
Hello everybody, can you hear me okay? Hopefully you can. My name is Matt Hadlington and I'm the Senior Business Engagement Manager at HS2. I work within the Community Engagement Directorate, and my role is to work with colleagues like Sarah and Michael and our contractors and the delivery partners that we work with to try and make sure that opportunities find their way to the local communities and the local businesses that we interact with. If you could just move to the next slide. Thanks, Grace. So one of HS2's key commitments is to be a good neighbour to local communities, and that doesn't just include being respectful and notifying them and trying to minimise disruption. One of the other things that's key to that is to try and make sure that benefits of this project land within local communities, and one way to do that is with local businesses. There are already 2,000 businesses working on the project for HS2, and around 1,000 of those are local businesses or line of route businesses, as we would call them. We have a target of using about 60% SMEs, and we're at around 70 at the moment. So this stuff is really, really important to us. So if you're a business who's looking to try and get involved in the project at some point in the supply chain, one thing that I would suggest as a way to help make you stand out is to consider how you're going to use local suppliers or local businesses that are as part of your supply chain. That just really helps set you apart in terms of all the other things that Sarah mentioned around cost, quality and control are obviously really key. But as a client, as HS2, as a project, this is a really important part of our legacy to be able to bring local businesses with us. If you could just move to the next slide. So there are already some examples of that out there on the project, and this is just a really good illustration of how thinking about local business can help you be successful on the project. So on the left hand side there's an image of a guy called Steve Fisher who works for Total Reclaim Demolition. They're one of our neighbours a little bit further up the route, and they came in, they did a significant amount of work for us at the Washwood Heath site, where they cleared the way for what we're going to do in terms of building a new maintenance depot there. They did a lot of the things that Sarah mentioned. They went out and got a FORS qualification to help manage their traffic and transport. So they kind of met the more formal side of the tendering process, but they also came to us with a really, really clear idea of how they were going to use the local market to deliver their packages of work. So they used a company called Jericho Wood Recycling, who are a Birmingham-based business with a charity angle. They help people who've had a hard time get back into work, and they use some of the wood recycled from the site to kind of do that. And so TRD came to us with a really clear idea of how they were going to harness the local market, one of which was Jericho Wood Recycling, and that just made them a very attractive proposition for us as the client, and also our enabling works contractor who were delivering that. So it's a really live example of the kind of things you could think about to make your offer a little bit more attractive to us as the client and to BBV. So and just one more slide from me before I think we'll have time for a Q&A. So the opportunities won't just come kind of in the tendering world or through procurement in Sarah's world. There'll also be plenty of opportunity for more, I suppose, informal involvement. So businesses will be able to get involved in the project via purchase orders, more ad hoc activities, and things like the stuff that our workers will buy on a day-to-day basis. So part of my job is really to try and understand what local communities offer, and what the market and what supplies and services are out there. So what I would ask you to do is as well as the other places you can go to understand about live opportunities and tendering and contracts, is also let us know at our website hs2.org.uk/local-business about what your offer is and what you can do. And then because you're one of our neighbours and you're a business that is close to us, what we'll do is then we'll take that within our supply chain and try and promote your offer and make sure that our contractors and their delivery partners are aware of what you can do. We'll be driving them towards you and trying to champion local business as much as we can. And that's all from me. So I think if I just hand back to Raj, we can do a quick Q&A.
Sorry, can everyone hear me now?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. No, good to see. Okay. So all I was saying is, as I said, if you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat box, and I can start sharing them with the panel. One quick question I had was just in relation to coronavirus and the post-COVID-19 landscape, and just having a think around how delivery plans might be affected by what's happened in the last few weeks. Is that something that you've taken into account and planned for moving forward?
It's Michael here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I mean, absolutely. That's currently front and center for us in terms of getting the balance right between sites where we are active, as well as taking the guidelines of Public Health England to ensure that we get that balance right. So it's already a key factor in terms of current operations. But one of the things we are contemplating is what does our return to activity look like in an immediate post-COVID-19 situation? So first and foremost will be if something changes post-lockdown later on this week and conditions are altered, then what will that mean? So as BBV, we are running a number of scenarios ourselves to ensure that we maintain social distancing for obvious reasons, whilst also contemplating all of those other measures which are currently in play and widely publicised. Clearly, whatever we do very much hand in glove with High Speed 2 to ensure that, again, we are fully connected. And above all else, we want to ensure the safety and well-being of our people and the immediate community that we touch.
Thanks, Michael. I think some of the questions are coming through now. We've just seen one from James Trotter, which says, under the procurement process, compete for, sorry, we've just gone there. Compete for what forms of procurement look like? Is it tendering, operating off a CCS existing framework, or something else?
Is Sarah able to take that one?
I'm not sure if Sarah's come back through.
If Sarah's, sorry, I was going to say, if Sarah's not with us, if we could perhaps repeat the question, and if it would be okay if Sarah can actually respond separately offline. I think that's probably the most efficient way of taking that question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think with some of these questions, what we'll do is we'll make a note of them and share them with yourselves, and then yes, as you said, we can come back to those separately. Okay, I'm just having a look to see which other questions are coming through now. Okay. I think there's a few that are typing away. I mean, from your perspective, Matt, obviously, you know, you've been in this role now for a couple of years, and you must have seen obviously the transformation of the region firsthand. I mean, how much do you think of that has been kind of underpinned by the expected arrival of HS2 and what it will bring to the region as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely, Raj. I mean, I moved back from London about 5 or 6 years ago, and Birmingham is transformed from when I used to live here. Absolutely, and I think a lot of companies are coming here with HS2 in mind. And I think the other thing that's important is that we make sure that the project delivers on the opportunities that it offers. And part of my job is to make sure that happens. And the really exciting thing for me is that all of our partners, especially people like BBV, have shown a real desire actually to make sure that local businesses are at the heart of what we do. So the delivery of the projects has to happen at a certain time and at a certain cost, but they're also really, really aware of the opportunity ahead of them to be able to use local businesses and make a real difference to the region. So I think both HS2, when it's kind of when it's delivered and operational will have a huge impact. But I also think during these next few years, when we're actually out there constructing, there's a real opportunity to transform some businesses and the way they work. I don't know if Michael would agree, but
yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay. One of the things I've recently asked for is to understand, if anything, what we think will be the scale of the contribution and the support that we will both give and need in the future, and we hope to be able to share that very soon. But as you might imagine, the numbers are sizable in terms of anything from employment, apprenticeships, contributions to STEM days, and everything and anything else. So for that reason, I think the future looks really, really bright. And what I think is really key to do is to understand the potential now, recognizing that sometimes potential doesn't always get fulfilled, but at the same time, there may be areas where we can go further than we presently think, and there may be some areas we have to, by very open, transparent communication, say, look, we've tried, but we can't quite do this. But the philosophy and the ethos that I want is to be a good neighbour, very much aligned to HS2's overarching values and objectives, but at the same time making sure that we make a difference in a positive way. It's also interesting when I asked a question for us to look back for a moment, just in terms of understanding what has been done during the time that we have been active in the first stage of the works before the recent notice to proceed. And once again, it's the actual I suppose levels and numbers of interactions have been not insignificant themselves too, which I think bodes very well for the future. And I believe that offline, again, we'll be happy to share some of that information to give a more detailed flavour as to what we have done and what we hope to do in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. We've had one question here from one audience member saying, as a freight forwarder based in Birmingham, handling all aspects of cargo movements, international and domestic, how could we become involved in moving cargo through the HS2 network?
Yeah, I can try and answer that one, or at least kind of give my position. Go on, Michael. Sorry, after you.
Yeah, I was going to simply say that unfortunately with Sarah having dropped off, I think she could give potentially a more succinct answer to that, given Sarah leads that activity for us and is very closely connected with her colleagues in HS2. But suffice it to say, I think what Sarah has done today is to provide I suppose almost a framework or a shape of how we intend to engage and how organisations can register an interest and become involved, whether that be directly or indirectly through the supply chain or the sub-supply chain. So in my mind, if you have capability, you are locally based, but you have breadth and scale to interact beyond the local area, then of course we would love to hear from you. And I would suggest either a direct contact to Sarah or indeed through the channels that she has outlined in her presentation. Back to you, Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if the question was around the future use of the rail network for freight, I would say at this point where we are with the project is very much around building capacity into that network based on passenger projections, and the opportunities for freight will definitely be there. You know, it takes lorries off the road. This is the greenest form of travel, and it's something that HS2 is very keen on doing. But those kinds of decisions around how the network will be utilised, I think, are for the future. What we're doing now is based on requirements and projections and the business case. But in terms of how those networks are actually used, I think if you'd like to submit a question to the help desk, we can get you a more detailed answer on that. But that kind of level of insight is probably for a little bit further down the line, if I'm honest.
Thanks, Matt. We've also had a question here from Ian Walker. And Matt, this might be one for yourself, but is there any definition to the localness of a business to the HS2 route?
No, we define it as if you're within the county. So you have the next to the line of route. So if you have you have Birmingham at one end and London at another, and they're both big cities which kind of span quite a long distance. But we're working with the Birmingham Chamber. We're working with the Black Country Consortium. We're working with business groups kind of in and around the Midlands. So no, I think if you're in the Birmingham area and you're part of this business group, then we'd be happy to talk to you and we'd be happy to promote what you do. I think the other thing is to not forget is there's, as well as BBV, there are several other really large joint ventures, contractors working all the way along the route, and they're going to need things from other parts of the line of route as well. So I think there's enough opportunity to go around, and there's plenty of scope for going slightly further in field. In some of the kind of greener areas, I suppose, in the middle of the route, we would define our neighbours kind of perhaps a bit closer, because there isn't as much opportunity there. But yeah, no, it's quite a loose definition, I think.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. We've had a question from Simon Armit, who says, I understand the reasons for you wanting to engage with local suppliers, but what do you intend to do when specialist products are not made or are actually not available through local companies? Are you also looking to engage with larger international companies as well?
I can have a go at that in Sarah's absence. If Michael, feel free to chip in. But absolutely, you know, this project is huge in scale and requires a significant amount of specialist materials, specialist skills. You know, so if you think about something like the tunnel boring machines, there are a limited number of companies that will be able to produce them, and we're starting with that tender now, and I believe that's an international tender. So yes, local business is at the heart of what I do and what we do as community engagement within HS2, and we want to use local suppliers wherever we can. But yeah, absolutely, we'll be looking further afield, and actually there's so much that we need that it's not going to be possible to get everything from one place. I think if you look at the recent enabling works program that we've delivered, just on the archaeology side, I think one of the statistics was that we'd hired the majority of archaeology professionals in the UK at some point or another during that program, because it was such a vast swathe of work that we needed to do. So yeah, it won't just be local businesses that we need, it will be businesses from all around the country and from other parts of the world as well.
Brilliant, thank you. I've been told that we need to wrap up shortly. So, Michael, if I just quickly bring you in for some final remarks. I mean, if there's anything you think the audience members should take away from this session in relation to the content, please feel free to share.
Thank you. I think much has been said in terms of the way that we would like to engage, and hopefully you can see the openness that we're trying to display. It is sincere, it is authentic, and from me to you, I'm grateful for the time that you've given us today. You know, we're at the start of the journey, and we have a lot ahead of us. And I think just almost jumping to the end of the questions where Matt just talked about local or global. I think for me, in order to get all the stuff done that we need to do, it's going to be a case of and both, and all of us leaning in rather than sitting back. And I know very much from a Balfour Beatty perspective, we are absolutely focused, as I know Vinci are too, on ensuring that we reach far, but we also keep close. And that's something that we must do, and we must continuously check and make sure that we remain local, we remain available, and we also supplement that with everything that we need from afar. And we have to get that balance right. But from me to you, thank you. I've enjoyed the start of this conversation and look forward to reconnecting with you further in the future. Thank you, Raj.
Thanks very much, Michael. Well, as I said, we're out of time now. I can see there's a number of questions that we weren't able to get through. As we said, we'll make a note of these questions and share them with Michael and Sarah and Matt. If you've got any further questions, feel free to either email myself or my colleague Grace, and we can share them with the presenters. At the same time, there is a section on the website, on our website, which is related to HS2 supply chain opportunities and what you can do to access them. So you'll find out more information there as well. But all that's left for me to say is thank you very much to all the presenters. Thank you to Michael, to Sarah, and to Matt. Unfortunately, Mark wasn't able to join us. And thank you to all of you for attending today and being part of the webinar. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks, Raj.